Welcome to Pussy Power. Welcome to today's episode of Pussy Power. I believe we are on our fourth, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who sent suggestions on episodes. Today is actually dedicated to someone who messaged me that he felt unhappy most of the time. And this is for you, Sir Jean. Thanks for sending in your experience. And I want to dedicate this episode to you and to everyone who feels unhappy, especially during these times. All right. Just a brief background on happiness, right? Happiness is something that you just do not chase. It's like, it's like a girlfriend or a boyfriend. The more you chase after it, the more it kind of eludes you. So that's happiness. It's like you don't force yourself to be happy, you don't work to be happy. It's actually, one of my life coaches told me that happiness is being okay with a happiness, with whatever happens, and accepting things if you can't change them, and changing things when you can. So in terms of being unhappy, I mean, so much of the world right now is completely not happy. And this is not just something that would be an experience for you if, like, this is not just a poor man's experience. This is also, like, a lot of rich people are unhappy. And that's because there are 6 basic human needs, and not a lot of them can be met. And we're going to be touching on those in a bit. And even if you are, let's say, you're someone with independent wealth, or you have like justifiable, really good means to afford the things you want, it doesn't mean that you're always going to be happy. It doesn't mean that, like, if your life seems really perfect, like there is nothing going wrong, that doesn't mean that you're forever going to be in la la land and life is just going to be smooth sailing for you. That is not how it works at all. There are times in my life where I'm just like, I feel like I've, achieved so much, and I feel like I've just gotten everything together for like somebody who's my age anyway. There are times that I would feel like, okay, I'm good. But then those are actually the times, if I'm being honest, those are the times when I would have like a quarter life crisis, because I would feel like, nothing is happening. I feel like there's no progress. I feel dead on the inside. And honestly, the last time I felt that was just a few months ago, back in July. I was, living the life that people sell you when they tell you that this is what success looks like. Like, I was living that life. I was making 6 figures every month. I was at a resort, a beautiful, beautiful resort. I didn't have to cook or clean, and I was just like living the laptop lifestyle. And ironically, it was actually at that moment too that I felt dead on the inside. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like I was just floating. Like, I just felt so fucking bored. And that's why I'm telling you that it doesn't matter whether you have money or not. Being happy or being unhappy is not something that, chooses like who gets to experience it, right? So I just want to touch briefly on the 6 basic human needs, and you might be able to assess which needs are met and which needs aren't. So let's go through the list one by one. The first basic human need, and I learned this from Tony Robbins, first basic human need is certainty. And that is, the feeling of safety, the feeling of security, the feeling that you're going to be able to assert control over your life. It's that feeling of agency. It's feeling like you're in control, like you're in charge of your life, right? Like, nobody likes feeling out of control. And a lot of people, when they're panicking or when they're like in a not so good state, a lot of the times it's because they don't feel like they're in charge of their lives. They don't feel like they're in control of their lives, right? So certainty isn't just getting to meet your physiological needs. It's not just getting to be able to eat 3 times a day. It's not just having shelter. It's not just having the things you need to survive. It's also being sure that you're able to assert your independence, you're able to assert control in your life. So that is certainty. Now, I'm gonna give you guys some examples. For me, I'm certain that I got me. It wouldn't matter if, you know, everything gets taken away from me. Like, I love starting over. And I'm certain that no matter what happens, I got me and I will be able to make it no matter what. And that's why that sense of certainty really serves me in that way. Okay. Another thing that I'm certain of is no matter what happens, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, has my back. And it's so funny because like there would be times when I would just panic and I would, look at payroll and think, oh my gosh, this is way over budget. And I would be like, I don't know what to do. But then I always have that sense of certainty that I would be okay. And it doesn't matter, I've just recently had to close a business because I no longer wanted to run it. And I just didn't really care for it anymore. I just had to do that. And that business was my cash cow, right? That business gave me a sense of certainty that I would be able to pay my bills, I'll be able to pay my rent, and the condo that I was living in that was amazingly beautiful. It was like floor to ceiling windows, and it was a high-end condo in Manila. That cash cow of a business gave me certainty. Now, where a lot of people kind of get unhappy, or where a lot of people get to the point where they're suffering, is when that thing that gave them the sense of certainty is taken away, right? And that's why back in, like, when was that time when there was like a disruption where a lot of bankers went bankrupt and a lot of them took their own lives. There were some people who like committed suicide because that sense of certainty of who they were, of like the money in their bank account, that sense of certainty was taken away from them. So now the question is, when that thing that you attached your sense of certainty to is taken away from you, where do you get it from? And that's why this is so important for you to be able to meet your needs internally, for you to be able to be the source of the needs that you have as a human being. Because if you keep attaching these things to external stuff, to your money, to your fame, to your house, what happens when they get taken away? Then you're gonna feel so much of the opposite of what you felt, and that's gonna dictate, what you're gonna feel. Okay. And honestly, like, my goal in life is to be the master of my emotions and to be the master of myself, and not the other way around. I don't want to be a slave to my circumstances. I don't want to be a slave to my emotions. So it's kind of a long-winded explanation there, but that is certainty. First, need certainty, right? Second, the second need, of course, is opposite to that, is uncertainty. The second need is variety. If, yes, we have safety, we have security, we also have the need for surprises. If when they're good things, they're called surprises, but when they're not so good, they're called problems. But like, yes, we do need variety, right? Because life is a roller coaster. Life isn't just like you're always gonna be on the up and up and up of things. There are gonna be down moments, and the need for uncertainty is really just one of the things that make us feel alive, right? Because when you know exactly how your day is going to go, when you know exactly how your life's going to go, then it becomes boring. Like, what's the point of living when you know the end of it all? When you know how everything is going to turn out? It's like going to be the fucking most boring thing ever. And that's why, as human beings, yes, we want to be safe, we want to be secure, we want to know that we're going to be able to get our bills paid, that we're going to have a secure future, but we also need to have that sense of thrill, that sense of aliveness. And that's where the need for uncertainty comes from. Uncertainty also gives that sense of excitement because you don't know what's going to happen next. And an example of this for me is I love the thrill of starting things. No, I love the thrill of starting over because when things are predictable, I get so fucking bored. And I know in business you would be like better off when your business is systematized. And I've been there, I've been at a point where my business was just so systematized, it barely needed me, and I just felt so fucking bored out of my fucking mind. Right? And yes, there was money coming in, but there was no excitement, there was no passion, there was no pleasure in what I was doing. And yes, I did make money, but I also felt so dead on the inside. So this is like a classic case of this. For the need for certainty would be like a billionaire who has everything, who knows he can get like the checks, the money, like literally everything this life has to offer, and he feels like super fucking bored, like bored out of his mind. That's the need for uncertainty right there. Okay, this is also why there are people who stay in toxic relationships because they don't know when it's going to be up and when it's going to be down again, and so when they experience the extremes, it becomes uncertain, and they interpret uncertainty as excitement. So that's why you have like maybe friends, people who stay in relationships that you're like, why the fuck is she or why the fuck is he in that relationship? Like one day they're making out, the next day they're fighting, the next day he's cheating on her, the next day they're making up again. It's like they just like the thrill of it, because once again, we're wired to have that need for excitement or uncertainty. Now, the next need we have is love. Okay? Every human being has a need for love. And this isn't just romantic love. Love comes in a lot of forms. That's why, as babies, when babies don't feel that sense of attachment, that sense of connection to their mother, they would either die or they would grow up distant and dysfunctional. And there are studies made about that. So, our need for love drives us to make connection, right? To have that sense of connection with another human being. Because, you guys have heard the saying, no man is an island. We like all grow in our relationships, through our relationships. And at the end of it all, it's like it doesn't matter how much money you accumulate, how much things you achieve. The quality of your life is almost always, or even always, determined by your quality of relationships. And you have experts like Esther Perel, and they're going to say the same thing. So for me, the need for love manifests in just being able to connect to my family, being able to connect to my significant other. It's not always about like it's not always going to be romantic. Like, I love my friends, but love is definitely, something that you can give more of when you yourself are loved by you, when you yourself love yourself. of course, like I would say that you cannot give what you don't have. So self-love is definitely, the cornerstone for that need to be met. Because if you do not if you do not love yourself, you're going to expect for somebody else to like magically show up in your life and love you. And when when it starts, it feels amazing, but when your true colors, when traumas pop up, it's like it doesn't feel enough anymore, and you're gonna have to find it in another person, and it's the same cycle over and over. So that's love, right? When it's not met in a healthy way. Now, let's go to the fourth need that we have, and that is the need for significance. This is why social media is so fucking powerful. It's because there are so many people who just wanna be seen and wanna be heard. Like every human being just wants to be seen, wants to be heard, and and almost everyone has a need for significance, right? They just wanna be important. They want to be seen as somebody who is sought after, somebody who has their shit together, somebody who's important and has a standing in society. And that's why on Facebook, like you only see the highlights of people's lives. On Instagram, you only see their happy moments, right? It's because people have a need for significance. Now, this is one of the things that really fucking drove me because um when I was younger, first time I fell in love, I definitely did not feel important, right? I fell for this like older guy, and I just felt like I constantly needed to prove myself, and that's why this need drove me to like get my first few successes, right? This need is something that drives a lot of people, and they don't even know it. They want to be important to their parents, they want to be important to their society, they want to be important to their haters. They want to show people that they've made it, right? And of course, as people, we have the need to feel like what we're doing has meaning, to feel like we have a place in this world. And that's why, you know, designer bags, and that's why luxury brands make a lot of money. It's because we have that need to be seen as someone who is important. The second to the last need that we have is that need for growth, that need for progress. And that's why, like, this is something that when you feel like you've been able to achieve something, when you've been able to be successful at something, that's when you kind of get bored. It's because the challenge is taken away. It's because it feels like you're not growing anymore. And my dad would tell me this because my dad is, he is not perfect. He's actually pretty amazing for the self-made man that he is in the business side. But he would tell me things like he started from nothing, and he would tell me things like he doesn't feel like what he's doing is challenged anymore, and he makes like a couple $1 million every year from his business. So it doesn't matter, like all the money, all the external things won't matter when this need is not met, because you're always going to feel like there's something missing. You're always going to feel like there's a part of you that's kind of like seeking for more, and you're not getting it. You're not growing, you're not progressing. And a lot of the times, for people who are achievement oriented, for people who really want to grow and they value growth so much, the moment that they kind of plateau a little bit, that's the moment where it really gets hard for them. And I'm like one of those people, because for me, my problem is not making money. My problem is, I mean, at the moment, in my 20s, it's that yes, I can make money at something, but like when I get bored, when I feel like I'm not growing anymore, it kind of fizzes out. So I mean, I'm lucky that I get to prioritize my growth because I don't have kids to feed. Like, I could literally live broke for the next 8 years and I'd be fine, right? But I don't want to do that. But just in case, if the need calls for it, because my main priority in life is to grow. Okay, it's not to accumulate like a bunch of cash. It's not just that, like, yeah, it would be awesome to have a lot of money, but not at the expense of my growth. So, this is where you also see like successful people, right? Like, for example, like the billionaires of the world, like they do not stop growing. And the ones who do, they're the ones who end up bored. They're the ones who end up like, you know, kind of bitter, and they feel like life is really meaningless because they're not growing, they're not progressing. And I think it was Tony Robbins who said it, like progress equals happiness. So if you're suffering, if you feel like unhappy right now, I totally understand. Like right now in the middle of the lockdowns, they've taken away a lot of things. I stopped going to my pole dancing classes for a bit there because, like, once again, of the lockdowns. And it's easy to kind of like feel like the things that we want to grow into are taken away from us, but there are always like new things to grow into. There are always new things that will allow us to grow even more. So thank God life is super fucking flavorful. Now, lastly, we also need to be able to contribute. This is where you see successful people who have foundations, the legitimate foundations, not the ones that are just used for money laundering. This is where you see people in their 50s, their 60s, even their 30s who want to be able to give back. It's because, yeah, it's cool to be able to meet all these 5 needs, but we also have a need to be able to contribute to other people's well-being, to other people's lives, even if they don't know us, even if they cannot repay us for whatever reason. This is why in the Philippines especially, um, you see family members taking care of their brothers, their sisters, even if it's not their job, even if it's not their obligation to do so, it's that need to contribute as well. And of course, that also hits love, because when you love someone, you want to be able to make sure that they're taken care of, that they're good, right? So that's contribution. And if look, what I usually do when I'm like assessing where I am in life, and when something's kind of off with me, what I would do is I would rate myself on all those needs on a scale of 1 to 5. Where am I at certainty? On a scale of 1 to 5, where am I at growth? And then I would look at the top two lowest scores, and I would be like, great, I'm low on love this week. I need to call my family. And the awareness of these needs helps in being able to diagnose what you actually need to do to be able to fix that in a sense. And so when you feel like there's something off, when you feel a little bit empty on the inside, when you feel a little unhappy, I would definitely recommend you go through these needs and just rate yourself from 1 to 5. And after you rate yourself, you look at the top two lowest scores. And from there, you can think of ways to remedy how you're feeling. Because once again, you don't want to be just like a slave to your emotions, right? If there's a way to fix it. Now, that's basically, those are the 6 basic human needs. Okay. Now, another angle we could take a look at this is most of the time, the reason why we're suffering and the reason why we're unhappy is because we just kind of take life too seriously. I mean, like, imagine yourself from like decades ago, right? As kids, we were like happy a lot of the time. As kids, we didn't really have bills to pay, and we never pressured ourselves to achieve things, to be a certain mold that society says this is what success looks like. Like, you would never see a kid say, I want to be so successful. Like, at least, when I was growing up, I never heard a kid say that, like our happiness was so fucking simple, right? We used our imagination and we just played. We believed that people in the world were good. We didn't have like so much of our walls up. We were open, we were warm to strangers, and we really didn't do things that we didn't want to do. We didn't eat those vegetables that tasted horrible. We didn't do our math homework if we didn't like math. So it's not that I'm saying that the fact that we have responsibilities is what's making us unhappy. No, responsibilities play a role in our growth, obviously. But my point is, I feel like as adults, we kind of stop giving ourselves the permission to just play. And we just started taking things seriously. We were like, holy shit, I have bills to pay, 15, 30, and my salary is not cutting it. So obviously, like life circumstances like come into play, but it's not just that. I see a lot of people, they do things that they don't like to do for the money, for the fame, for all the wrong reasons. Like, yeah, I understand if you're the breadwinner and you absolutely have to be in a job that you're like makes you feel miserable, and you have to do that because you have a family to support. I do understand that. But the thing is, a lot of people stay there. And I don't think that has to be the case. I don't think you have to stay in a job that, sucks the fucking soul out of you for the rest of your life. At least have like a fucking backup plan. At least have something that, you know, at least have a plan that allows you to get out of that situation. So you don't just become like a bitter adult at the end of your life, right? So you don't just suffer and become jaded. I see a lot of people, yeah, they're successful. Yeah, they are able to pay the bills, but they're just so fucking jaded. Like I can't see them having that sense of aliveness. And that's why I feel like so many people love being around kids. It's because kids just remind them who they used to be. That sense of play, that sense of playfulness that they used to have. The fact that when we were kids, we were so open, we were so curious, and we had dreams. Like, I know when I was a kid, like, I think I wanted to, like, I just wanted to, like, watch Disney movies and at least be a Disney princess once in my life. I remember that. Um, I don't want that anymore. That's not my dream anymore. But my point is, we allowed ourselves to have dreams. We didn't sour grape and say, "Oh, that's impossible because I'm just a janitor right now and I can't possibly do X, Y, Z because I'm not ABC." Right? It's not like that. As adults, we just fucking worry too much. We do things we're not meant to do. We do things for all the wrong reasons because, like, we we think it's the way to be successful. We believe our parents when they say that we need to follow this certain path so we become successful, so we become happy, and like fucking be like the mold of what success looks like for modern day society. And a lot of us just stop dreaming, and we stop believing in the possibility of our dreams coming true. And like when you fucking do that, get who would not get unhappy? Like if you took a kid's most prized toy, of course that kid's gonna be sad. It's kind of like the same for us when we grow up, and we forget that we're just kids on the inside. We forget that we can still dream. We forget that, yeah, it's still possible for us to achieve the things that we want to achieve, do the things we are meant to do, even if our circumstances are kind of dim right now. You know, they're not the best circumstances. We kind of let our circumstances like be bigger than who we could become. And obviously, there's so much negativity right now. I'm not blaming anyone, but I'm just saying that if there are people who've been able to rise above that, then I don't think anyone has a valid excuse unless they have like some sort of psychiatric disorder, right? Another thing that we tend to do, and I'm obviously, guilty of this as well, is we get so tempted by comfort that we choose comfort over growth. We choose comfort over progress. And once again, like this happened to me. I was just like, cool, I get to buy all the shit that I wanted to buy, and I get to live this like bougie lifestyle. Love it, love it, love it. I'm gonna keep this business. It doesn't make me happy or whatever. I fucking hate it. Like it makes my gut drop every time I open Slack, but whatever, right? I mean, I look successful on the outside. I am comfortable, so what the fuck? Like, fuck it. I don't have a right to complain. So we get so tempted by comfort, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, comfort feels good, comfort feels comfortable and homey, and like all the good things, like all the good things that are fluffy and soft and whatever, right? It's like a fluffy unicorn. That's what comfort looks like to me. But the problem with that is when we trade our growth for something that's just comfortable. Like, if I look back at my short life, my best achievements, my best outcomes never came from just me settling in my comfort zone. They always came from, a time when I was so fucking desperate and I didn't know what the fuck I was gonna do, that I decided to step outside of my comfort zone. I decided to like sell munchkins and sell door to door and not care if I look poor to people, right? Because I wanted to fucking hustle and I wanted to make money. And at the end of the day, at least I got to keep the money that I made. And I look back at the times when I stepped into uncertainty, and not the uncertainty that's like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a surprise. It's not that kind of uncertainty. It's the kind of uncertainty that's scary. It's the kind of uncertainty that you hear your friends and your family kind of like questioning you. It's like, hey, like, are you sure about that decision? Like, you get people doubting you, and you get people even stabbing you behind your back, right? It's that kind of uncertainty that has really allowed me to propel to that next level version of myself. And if I just settled for comfort, then I would probably just still be broke right now. I'd be in college. I would just follow the path of success that, everyone else laid out for me. And then I would wonder at the end of it all why I'm so fucking unhappy. And I think that's what a lot of people have done. It's just they've allowed other people to dictate how they're going to be. They've allowed other people to dictate what path they're going to take. They've allowed other people to dictate the mold that they should be in. And no wonder they're fucking unhappy. If you're living somebody else's life, if you're living somebody else's dream, then you're not really being fully yourself. And no wonder you feel stuck. No wonder you feel like you're not progressing. No wonder you feel like you're fucking unhappy. It's because you're not giving yourself the permission to be just you. You bought into other people's model of success. And I'm not blaming you, but I'm just like telling you, hey, that this is what's up. This is what's happened. So all those things kind of like sound grim, but once again, if you've listened to other episodes already, which I hope you have, I'm not just going to stop there. I'm actually going to give you suggestions on how you can be happy again without chasing happiness necessarily. The first one on my list is to obviously start progressing at something again. Start growing. Get a fucking hobby. And I'm gonna be applying this myself. I'm gonna go to my pole classes again, and I'm gonna suck. I'm gonna give myself permission to fucking suck at first. And then I'm gonna suck until I become like a world class stripper or a world class pole dancer or something. So get a hobby. Get a hobby that's outside of your business. Get a hobby that you've always wanted to try, that you've always been interested in. If you've always wanted to start your own business, do that. Start somewhere. Start something. Start something that would make you feel like you're actually getting better. Because I feel like that's really where most happiness comes from. It's knowing that you've been able to go through hard things, it's knowing that you've been able to strive, and knowing that yes, it was hard, but you fucking made it. Hooray, yay you. Right? The next thing on my list of suggestions is to just be fucking grateful. You might have a lot of problems. There's literally no one in this world who doesn't have any problems, except for those people who are in the cemetery buried 6 feet under. They don't get problems because they're fucking dead. You're not dead. That's why you have problems. And knowing that everyone has problems, it's like it comforts, at least for me, it comforts me. But at the same time, it's knowing that despite the problems you have, you also think you also have things to appreciate. You also have things to be grateful for. And sometimes we look at our problems and they look so big that we forget to look at the little things in our lives that we can actually appreciate, we can actually be grateful for. Like if you have a family member who roots for you, if you have a best friend who is amazing, if you have people in your life, like a business that sustains you, a job that you love, then those are things that you can feel thankful for. And this is super fucking simple. It's literally just like, okay, asking yourself, like, what is it in my life right now that I'm so fucking lucky to have? It also helps to look at other people who don't necessarily have everything that you have, like the beggars on the streets. Like whenever I see like beggars on the streets, I'm always like, oh my god, thank god, I'm living this life. It doesn't matter what kind of problem I have that day, I would always feel relieved. My second to the last suggestion is to give yourself permission to suck. Okay, you're gonna start something new, you're gonna be brave and make an offer if that's what you want. Like put your product, put your service, put yourself out there. Just fucking give yourself permission to suck. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now with this podcast. Like I know this is not going to be my best podcast, and I'm giving myself permission to suck. So let's just suck together, like do something. I fucking suck at pole dancing right now, so go ahead, suck at something. At least it makes you feel like you're growing, it makes you feel like you're progressing, because if you're good at everything, then that's fucking boring. And lastly, take action on one of your dreams. It doesn't have to be the biggest dream that you have, it could just be like little things, like hitting a certain amount for your savings, like looking at things that you may not be able to afford, but at least get the inspiration that one day you're gonna have them, like that house, that watch that you want to get your parents or something like that. Just take one small action that would lead you closer. And I already did this, I do this every now and then. When I was broke, just last year, I was a fucking broke college dropout. I remember having road trips with my mom, and I would always say whenever we're in Jeddah, which is like a big city in Saudi Arabia, whenever we're there, I would always ask to stopped by the fanciest hotels, and we literally toured Ritz Carlton. And I was fucking broke, I couldn't afford a room there, but I wanted to be able to get inspired. I wanted to be able to see that the life that I want is not that far away. And true enough, after a year, I'm in a hotel at least like once a month. And it's not, those hotels may not be the Ritz Carlton. There are other five-star hotels as well, but at least it brings me fucking closer, right? Because honestly, like, this is a whole new podcast in itself. If you don't believe that your dreams can come true, then you're already right there. You're right, whether you believe you can or can't, you're absolutely right. So this was definitely longer than I thought it would be. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sergine, this one is for you. Once again, if you guys have suggestions on episodes, if you have questions, whether it's about self-love, self-empowerment, healing, love, sex, relationships, just email me at Angela at pussypower.live.